What's up, guys? You guys ready to dive into it? We got a great episode planned. We're going to be talking about all things Chinese spy balloon. So if you guys could hit that like button, smash that like button, you know, Will Smith, Chris Rock, that shit, because it's going to be a banger episode today. So hopefully you guys are ready. Let's dive into it.
He's also wrong, by the way. Blinken is wrong with regards to international law, because if you look into this, the space between the highest level jet fighters can fly, which is about 18 kilometers or 60,000 feet, and outer space where satellites fly is legally undefined. So we don't have treaties to define that space where this balloon was. Technically, there are no treaties for this. There's no international laws for that space where this balloon was. And it's mostly considered unused space because it's in between satellites and it's higher than where aircraft can fly. So you're wrong on that account. There is no treaty. It's not a violation of American sovereignty. It's literally a weather balloon.
Never bury the lead. You have been entirely sold out, your government, to China, and not just to China, to other places as well. Horrible. There's no good angles to this China balloon story. There are people getting it out there, but there are a lot of people not. The balloon story is not about the balloon. It's about this. China flipping the single barrel family friendly middle finger and telling us what? We own you, idiots. But how do you explain the fact that on the eve of this critical visit the United States was supposed to have with China, Tony Blinken was supposed to meet Xi Jinping, Chinese President Xi? It's supposed to be a huge deal. Huge deal. Now, you're probably asking what I'm asking. Well, Dan, that doesn't make a lot of sense. If China was going to have this diplomatic meeting in China with our Secretary of State at the highest level with Xi Jinping, why humiliate the United States with a freaking visible balloon just days before the meeting? Because that's the point, to humiliate the United States.
So you can be outraged by the people running our country selling out our country to China, and you should be, but that's a very different thing from wanting to go to war with China, a war that we have no assurance we would win, to put it mildly. But in a memo to his troops, 4-star Air Force General Mike Minahan wrote this, quote, "My gut tells me we will fight in 2025. Xi Jinping secured his third term and set his war council in October 2022. Taiwan's presidential elections are in 2024 and will offer Xi a reason. U.S. presidential elections are in 2024 and will offer Xi a distracted America. Xi's team, reason, and opportunity are all aligned for 2025. So what should we take of this? Again, you can be deeply skeptical, in fact, hostile toward China, and still be worried about going to war with China. Jimmy Dore is the host of The Jimmy Dore Show. He joins us tonight to assess. Jimmy, should we be paying attention to a memo like this? What do you think it means?
What I think it means is that the United States is trying to provoke and sable rattle with another nuclear power, right? This is what we were supposed to be afraid of was going to happen with Donald Trump, right? We couldn't have, he's a crazy man who's going to have his finger on the nuclear button. And now we have Demented Joe, who is saber rattling with two nuclear powers, and they get the corporate media sponsored by the military industrial complex to get Americans to cheer it on. And why do Americans cheer it on? Because they have no idea what's actually happening with their foreign policy. And what's worse is they have no idea that they have no idea that they don't have any idea what's happening with their foreign policy.
I know. And what's crazy is, like, I was looking at a whole bunch of different physics related stuff to this balloon, diving into like all sorts of craziness on this, because not craziness, like actual math on this. And according to scientists, they're like, if it's that size, it's literally about the same size as 3 buses. That's how big this thing is. When it's in that area of the jet stream and it gets out of control like that, no one can control it. It's uncontrollable. So this idea that they could have just like steered it back and it would have been fine. No, sorry. It's out of control, gone. Like, it's not capable of being turned around and flown back like a drone. It's just the way these things operate. And these same balloons have been filmed all over China. Like, I've seen photos of these things, these exact same weather balloons that are with measurement instruments, meteorological measurements as well.
So can anybody tell me the last time that you remember Republicans and Democrats both being on the same side of an argument? I think the last time was the war in Iraq, right? So now we're looking at this situation going, why are they gaslighting us? Why did this Chinese spy balloon magically appear over the United States? Were there any headline news stories that they really wanted to take the spotlight off of? It worked. Right during the House committees, right about the same time that the story was about to break, that the Joe Biden administration and the CIA actually blew up the Nord Stream pipeline after they blamed it on Russia. Pretty weird. Probably just another coincidence. I mean, I'm no conspiracy theorist, but just stating the obvious here. Can you guys hit that like button for me, please?
You know what would also be humiliating? If they were paying off members of the family of the former vice president and current vice president to do business deals with people thought to be involved heavily with the Chinese Communist Party. That would be embarrassing too. But you see that the relationship continued for a long time says that China realizes that they can give the single-barreled family friendly to the United States. And not only will nothing happen, they'll continue to pucker up and plan a big wed one on China's ass. You think they care about this balloon? Oh, this balloon was a sign, all right. But it's not the sign you thought it was.
We have 400 military bases surrounding China since the Korean War. Do we really think that China is getting ready to invade the United States? Because I tell you, they're not. They make everything we use in the United States. Why? Because the same people who want this war are the same people who took the good jobs that are manufacturing jobs in America, turned them into low-paying, crappy jobs, and then shipped them to China. And then we get angry at them for the system that we set up. If they're so corrupt, because that's the thing, Americans have no idea how corrupt their government is. They think our government's just regular corrupt, like, oh, Trump gave his son a job or Biden gave his kid a no-show job in the Ukraine war. That's not, the whole thing is corrupt. The $800 billion military budget is $800 billion of corruption.
So, they wanted to blame Trump on all of this, but then we learned today that Trump's general, Mad Dog Mattis, knew about it and kept it quiet from Trump because he, and according to the headlines, treason, says the Gateway pundit. Representative Waltz says DOD told him China's spy balloons crossed the U.S. during the Trump years, but General Mattis did not tell Trump, thought that he was too aggressive. Yeah, that apparently Mad Dog Mattis knew about it but kept it quiet because he thought Trump was too aggressive. The guy's nickname is literally Mad Dog. Mad Dog thinks that Trump was too aggressive.
Why do we have to have 800-900 military bases around? We're the ones provoking this war, just like we provoked the war in Ukraine. We are now provoking a war with China. And who benefits? I'll tell you right now. Your enemy is not China. Your enemy is not Russia. Your enemy is the military-industrial complex, which has been fleecing this country to the tunes of hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars. How many times are we going to have a defense secretary say, hey, we can't account for $2 trillion in the Pentagon again, which has happened twice now in my lifetime.
What kind of technology were they demonstrating? So I heard a few people comment on, well, it was probably a sign of their technical prowess. Really? With a balloon?
Why?
Dude, don't ask me dumb questions. I don't know.
Balloons,
you don't know. There's a freaking balloon. They don't shoot. They don't do anything, dude. It's a balloon. As I said on my Fox show this weekend, which probably was not a good idea, by the way. Guy witnessed the whole thing, Joe. Loopy on paid medication was probably not the best idea. Having said that, I mentioned this and I'll mention it again. My grandparents bought me a balloon when I went to the Bronx Zoo with them when I was 9. You think China sent the balloon over and said, look what we can do? That's not what they were doing.
By the way, Trump is the only president in recent memory who hasn't added an additional war to our list of countries we are at war with. He's the only one. They've all added wars. Trump didn't, so he's too aggressive? Okay. So here's Congressman Waltz admitting this on television to Stu Varney. Watch.
Balloons floating around under Trump.
I do think this is spin on the Biden White House's part to say, well, it happened back then, they didn't shoot it down, and therefore to justify their dithering and inaction here. My office has been briefed by the Office of Secretary of Defense and the current Pentagon that it happened over Florida, it happened over Texas, and that it's happened before. We have more detailed questions, but what's unclear, Stu, and this is the key point, is did the Pentagon under the Trump administration brief the Trump White House and give them the option to take action, or did they decide not to brief them for whatever reason? And there's some speculation. I've talked to Trump White House officials over the weekend that the Pentagon deliberately didn't because they thought Trump would be too provocative and too aggressive. So that's what we need to get to the bottom of. And one person I'm waiting to hear from that we haven't heard from in that whole list is former Secretary of Defense and General Mattis, who was the secretary during this time period. What did he know and what did he decide to pass on and brief to the president?
He's traitorous, right? If that's true, he's not the commander-in-chief. The commander-in-chief is the president of the United States. So you have information that China has balloons overhead. Whether are they nefarious or not? Are they just weather balloons? Are they actually communications? Are they studying our nuclear power plants? By the way, is it the 1950s where we're using balloons to do this stuff? We use drones now, high-tech drones. and satellites that can read license plates from outer space. You really need a freaking balloon? Okay. But anyway, if he kept this from him, isn't that treasonous?
So taking a look right here, right? So this is 330 meters away. So roughly about 1,000 feet away. Check this guy out. Now this is just a camera. This is a Nikon. I forget what the exact, what exact lens he's using. But check this out. Can you read this sign? That's 330 meters away. Now watch him zoom out here and watch how far away this sign actually is. No, not there. Wait for it. Wait for it. How far away is that, right? This is some guy with his camera, right? Now this one is, I think this is 610 meters away. It's insane. The guy's across the lake. Not a small lake either. Now this one's 111 meters. Guy's up on top of this tower. So that's roughly about a mile away, give or take. There's a balloon 60,000 feet away, and we couldn't have crystal clear images and see every detail of every electronic part on that balloon. Now this one's 6,555 kilometers away. Check out this tower. So this tower is beyond the other side of the lake. Now you can also see the moon. So we're gonna get into how far away that this Nikon P900 zoom lens can shoot from. Now watch when he zooms out here. Just look at how far that is. I mean, look at that. That building up on top of that tower right there is so freaking high up. That's bonkers. Wild. I mean, these people are on the boat in the middle of the lake, and you can see that. You could probably tell what type of glasses that guy has on. You can read the writing on the side of this boat. So they're expecting us to believe that we have camera equipment that me and you could go in the store and buy. And we have satellites that can zoom in from outer space and see the nose hairs inside your nose. So if you had one of the dude who didn't manscape a little bit and you had some gnarly nostril hairs hanging out the side of your nose there, they could see those with a satellite from space. So you expect us to believe that there's this imminent threat with this Chinese spy balloon flying over America? It's really what they're trying to convince us. Blows your mind, doesn't it?
But this is all a distraction, though. Because the reason we're now hearing about these balloons with all of these great photos that Philip was just showing a second ago and the close-up video, can we play it again? All of these great photos and the close-up videos of this thing being shot down. Look at this, like it's being shot down out of the air with jets because they want you to see it.
Yeah, so this is where Redacted, I don't know if he understands videography and photography equipment, but that balloon was only, 60,000 feet away? We can see craters on Mars, crystal clear. So they're talking about like the equipment had American writing on it and they shot it down over the ocean, which why would they shoot it down over the ocean? Why? To destroy the electronic equipment so they could keep this story hidden? It just doesn't make sense. The equipment that you could go buy at a camera store would allow you to see that lens. I mean, you could order a telescope off Amazon and probably have seen that balloon crystal clear. I mean, you could have seen the details of the pieces, the electronic equipment that were on there. Like if this little phone case was on that balloon, there is camera equipment that you can go and buy and order off Amazon that you could see where it says Trump or 45 on this from 60,000 feet away. But yet the videos and the photos that they showed us, I mean, yeah, we can see it getting shot down, but it wasn't like crystal clear. It wasn't like the thing was 10 feet away from you. It just makes me really think about what message are they wanting us to see, or what are they wanting us to think? Because we know that that's all our government does is lie to us. I mean, if you guys really want to figure out what's going on with this Chinese spy balloon, just check out the fact-checking websites. We know that any of these government funding fact-check websites, or they're funded by Google or Facebook or Amazon, if they are fact-checking a story and they're saying it's a lie or it's a conspiracy theory, almost guaranteed that it is absolutely a fact that that story is true. Or if YouTube is giving out strikes, that's pretty much my go-to. If YouTube's giving out strikes over a story or some type of conspiracy theory, those orders most likely are not coming from YouTube. That's coming from somebody within the government telling YouTube that they need to silence or censor this story, just like they did with Brazil, just like they did with C-19, just like they did with Joe Biden and the election stuff. Every single story that they've fact-checked or given out strikes for turns out to be true. And I know one thing that I can't say right now that will get the channel striked. So, you know what I'm saying? Let's get this stream filled up, guys. Could you guys do me a huge favor and hit that like button? I'd greatly appreciate it.
The reason that we're seeing this is because they want you to see it. They want you to feel threatened by this. In my opinion, the real story is that both liberals and neoconservatives see this balloon incident as a real threat. And the deep state is making sure that they feel this way, making sure that you feel this way. It's a reason to basically batten down the hatches. Send more battleships to the Taiwan Strait in the South China Sea. Send more weapons to Taiwan. Hey, Kevin McCarthy, why don't you make that trip a little sooner to Taiwan that you're planning? You know, the one that Nancy Pelosi just made? You should make yours soon too. So you can tell Taiwan that we stand with them and against China's tyranny. You know, they're scared of China because China is going to be the number one global dominant force here very shortly. And the US dollar, the US hegemony is crumbling. So we need incidents like this to be scared of the Chinese. So it's all a distraction. You have both sides playing out exactly how the deep state wants it to, right? Republicans are saying this, Democrats are saying this, and the truth is, right, they just want you to be upset about it. They want you to be, the boogeyman here is China. Just look at how the New York Times, the liberal New York Times, covered this story. This is David Sanger, their reporter. He's basically a neocon, by the way. We've covered him on the show before. They're worried about what China is up to. Here's the New York Times headline: Balloon incident reveals more than spying as competition with China intensifies. There's nothing new about superpowers spying on one another, even from balloons. But for pure gall, there was something different this time. David Sanger at the New York Times. Sanger says in this piece that China has failed to communicate on the issue to Washington. They failed to communicate on this issue. If this balloon went errant, it got out of hand.
Intelligence gathering that's going on by every country around the world is overwhelming. And the idea that a balloon could traverse, break American airspace is, anyway.
That it's refusing calls from the Pentagon to discuss the balloon because what it calls America's, quote, irresponsible response to the balloon incident.
Episode.
Tonight, intelligence from top secret U.S. spy planes is providing startling details about China's spy operations.
Did we know this was a signals intelligence collection operation? When did we know what this balloon was? And I ask this because did we know this was a spy balloon when it got into our airspace originally in Alaska? And if we didn't, why?
U.S. officials now say the Chinese spy balloon that was shot down off the Atlantic coast nearly a week ago is part of a much broader intelligence program.
How dangerous is this breakdown in communication?
You know, Ryan, I think that is a really key issue here, and it predates this whole balloon.
This is not a major breach. I mean, look, it's a violation of international law. It's our airspace.
So can anybody watching this, can you drop a comment below and let me know when you have ever saw the Biden administration or CNN or ABC or NBC or MSNBC or CNN ever tell us the truth? They're always trying to push a lie or a story that's not true. This is what makes me believe that this was a weather balloon, and you're going to get to it here. A weather balloon that flew off course. If they were trying to spy, why would you spy with an object that's the size of 3 school buses? We're getting played. We're getting gaslight. Check out this.
Because you can't control balloons, by the way. Have you ever lost a child's balloon after a birthday party? You cannot control it. There's no saving that balloon.
I think the string broke. That's what happened.
There's no controlling that. Oh, Daddy, can you get me another one? Sorry, it's gone. It's now in the belly of a sea turtle. So Sanger says, David Sanger for the New York Times writes this in his piece, that China has failed to communicate on the issue to Washington, that all of this could have been avoided if only China had told us about it, he says. He says, quote, this was hardly a life-threatening crisis, but the fact that Chinese officials realizing that the balloon had been spotted did not call to work out a way to deal with it was revealing, the New York Times says. It was revealing. Of course, it was a total lie. In fact, China did tell the United States about it repeatedly. Here's a statement from the Chinese government. Question: according to media reports, a Chinese unmanned airship has been spotted. This is on the 3rd of February. Has been spotted in U.S. airspace. Do you have any comment about it? The 3rd of February. Today is the 6th of February. Answer: the airship is from China, China says. Look, the airship is from China. It's a civilian airship used for research, mainly meteorological purposes, affected by the westerly winds, and with limited self-steering capability. The airship deviated far from its planned course. The Chinese side regrets the unattended entry of the airship into U.S. airspace due to force majeure. The Chinese side will continue communicating with the United States side and properly handle this unexpected situation caused by force majeure, things outside of their control. So you're right. Weather balloons have been used for years as, covering of conspiracy theories. So Washington knew about this because China was communicating with them about this.
I am aware of the reports, and I am in the process of understanding and verifying the situation. I would like to emphasize that until the facts are clarified, speculation and hype will not help to resolve the issue properly. China is a responsible country that has always strictly abided by international laws, and it has no intentions of violating the territory and airspace of any sovereign country. Regarding this balloon issue, as I have just mentioned, we are in the process of understanding and verifying the situation, and we hope that both sides can handle it together calmly and cautiously.
Secretary of State canceled his trip to China, to Beijing, because of this. Mr. Blinken called the Chinese surveillance, quote, an irresponsible act and a clear violation of U.S. sovereignty and international law, he says. Watch this.
U.S. airspace is a clear violation of U.S. sovereignty and international law, that it's an irresponsible act, and that the PRC's decision to take this action on the eve of my planned visit is detrimental to the substantive discussions that we were prepared to have. I told Director Wong that the United States remains committed to diplomatic engagement with China, and that I plan to visit Beijing when conditions allow. In the meantime, the United States will continue to maintain open lines of communication with China, including to address this ongoing incident. Indeed, that's why we need direct and regular communications in the first place, and that's why it's critical that such lines remain open at all times to help avoid miscalculation and conflict.
Yeah. So you're canceling your trip because of a weather balloon. China's decision to take this action on the eve of my planned visit is detrimental to the substantive discussions that we were prepared to have. So, we were going to talk peace and have substantive discussions. Now we're not. We're probably going to send more weapons to Taiwan because you're a weather balloon.
So again, people are being, the war machine cannot be stopped. Who's running this country? The war machine. It certainly isn't Joe Biden making these decisions. I would like to know who is making the decisions. And I just want to remind everybody, the United States is the world's terrorist. We just set the Middle East on fire in the last 20 years. And now we're doing a proxy war in Ukraine, which we provoked, NATO provoked, and it was just admitted that we provoked it by the former Prime Minister of Germany. And now we're trying to saber rattle with China, and they're predicting a war.
So let's talk about this for a second. Picture a balloon out in the wind, and we have winds from, say, 25, 35, 45 miles per hour. So up that high in the jet stream, what is the wind? How strong is the wind up in jet streams? Simple question. Okay, so this is pretty interesting, right? Jet streams, this is how fast our wind speeds at 30,000 feet. A major cause of turbulence at these upper levels is the jet stream. The fast-moving air is often concentrated between 30,000 and 35,000 feet above sea level. Wind speeds in the core of the jet stream can exceed 200 miles per hour and may approach 300 miles per hour in some cases. So let's think about that for a minute. You have a balloon the size of 3 school buses in a jet stream where the wind speeds in a jet stream are 5 times stronger than a level 1 hurricane, 2 times stronger than a level 2 hurricane.
The storm has intensified to a near Category 5 status, wreaking havoc on everything in its path.
It's hell on earth as Hurricane Ian slams into Florida. 155 miles per hour winds, 18-foot waves, epic destruction.
The wind continues to ramp up, but we're going to get smashed here. There are down trees literally everywhere, all over this area.
Look at the wind howling through here. Their reporters were in the thick of it, wearing baseball helmets for protection against projectiles.
I just got knocked on my butt. You can hardly see anything out here.
Jim Cantori had some close calls. First, he almost got struck by lightning. Then he got hit with a tree branch.
Sorry guys, I had to fact check myself. That is a Category 5 hurricane with 155 mile per hour winds, even if it's a level 4. 155 mile per hour winds. You've seen what those guys looked like. They couldn't even walk. So now imagine a balloon the size of 3 school buses floating up in the air in 275 to 300 mile per hour winds. And you think, what, these solar power engines? They might be able to help steer it when it's coming down. Like it might have had little propellers and little wind things that it can move certain. You're not controlling a balloon like that. So to think that it got off course or it accidentally came into the United States, I think is much more plausible than to think that China was spying on us with the most non-secretive balloon in the history of the world. Just doesn't make sense, guys. But I want to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comments in the live chat. We're gonna expose this corruption. We're just gonna drain the swamp with the truth, you know? It's the best, sunlight's the best disinfectant, you know? I mean, go outside and hold up a sign and let that thing catch wind. It'll blow you over. So they expect us to believe that this is how China planned to spy on the United States. Let that sink in. What is the master plan here? We know that every time the media tries to tell us or tries to push a narrative out there like this in mass with all of the independent, quote unquote, fake news agencies reporting the exact same thing, China spy balloon, China spy balloon, China spy balloon. Are you buying it? Drop some in the comments. Pickle Rick, what up? Mr. K, what up? Good to see everybody today. Thank you guys for hitting that like button and that subscribe button. I appreciate each and every one of you. Let's keep it going, man. I got lots of good content for you guys.
Again, China's not going to invade us. China's not our enemy. We might have an economic war. That's what these are. These are economic wars. These are wars for, in Ukraine, it's about liquefied natural gas and making sure Germany and Russia never come together because we fear Russia's natural resources and manpower, and we fear them getting together with Germany with their technology and their capital. And so that's why we blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. That's why we're doing the Ukraine war. This is all about hegemony, imperialism, and economics. And if there's a Marine somewhere, it's there because they're about to steal some natural resources from another country. As everybody's screaming about what a bad guy Putin is for invading Ukraine, the United States is currently occupying a third of Syria. And which third is that? It's the third that has the oil. And how do I know we're there to steal their oil? Because the President of the United States said so.
And we're not even benefiting economically. Of course, that's the rub.
That's not what they were doing. We'll send, what is those, SR-71 Blackbirds and stuff that fly at supersonic speeds to take spy satellite pictures. They sent a balloon. The point of the balloon was the FU. Guys, if this isn't making sense and I'm wearing you out, you need to stop me. They sent a balloon as the FU. Like, look at this. We're going to send the most low-tech, clownish-like spy device into your territory. Is this making sense? On the week of a meeting with Xi Jinping as the biggest non-family friendly ever.
In your face, dude. In your face.
Yes. Yes. Is everybody missing this? China doesn't give fill in the blank about Biden. They are flipping him the middle finger. They own this guy. Folks, it's not only that. On a very serious and particularly tragic note, China owns the White House. China's own members of Congress. Oh, who? Oh, Swalwell. At least that's the ones we know about. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to even make this a partisan segment because it's a national security one, and I'm a partisan. Make no mistake, you know that. But I'm not so sure China doesn't have operatives in potentially Republican offices too. Oh, make no mistake. I want Democrats to listen to this too. We know about Swalwell, the congressman who is alleged to have had a physical relationship with a woman alleged to be a Chinese spy. He's a congressman.
You know, I'd love to go on a rant about Swalwell right now, but Tucker, he does such a great job. Check this out.
We try to get things right on the show, but when we make a mistake, we correct it immediately, and we're doing that now. For several years, we have told you that Eric Swalwell was the single dumbest member of Congress, the absolute dimmest of the 535 herd animals who make your laws. We meant it when we said it, but things change. The facts on the ground, they're different. Cori Bush was elected to office, and Swalwell lost his throne. It's sad, but Swalwell still serves with distinction. He's the only elected official in Washington we can say with confidence has had sex with a Chinese spy. That's not nothing. We've got time to think from time to time. He's probably sitting in the House steam room bragging about it. Swalwell is that kind of guy. Of course, Swalwell is no longer having sex with that particular spy. She's fled the country ahead of federal investigators. So there's a hole in Swalwell's life where a sexy spy once was. Hence the new job posting the Swalwell's office has just announced. They're looking for someone to, quote, find creative ways to expand the congressman's brand. Apparently that's the euphemism they're going with. Hey, baby, expand my brand. Swalwell claims he's a progressive, but he's got some pretty old-fashioned requirements for the brand expander. He wants this person to be a woman, not a dude, not a trans person, but a verified chick, preferably someone with a, quote, diverse background and lived experiences. What kind of lived experiences is Eric Swalwell talking about? Well, this is a family show, so we're not going to speculate on that, but you can imagine what he's talking about. Meow. Hot times with Congressman Spy Sex. So alert your daughters. This is not a job they want. Beijing, send your best.
China owns the White House through Biden and his son and these shady business deals. Congress. They had an operative in Senator Dianne Feinstein's office. They own people in the Senate, too. Who else do they own? They own our FBI. Apparently, according to the indictment of the FBI agent McGonigal, they were working in Albania with a source working with this FBI guy at the highest levels of the New York Counterintelligence Division. He was alleged to be working with Albania, who is working with China. They own our businesses, demanding they turn over their IP. They own our universities through this Confucius Project. They own our military, Senate, Congress, the presidency. Now they own our airspace. Big middle finger to America sending a freaking balloon. You've been sold out, man. You have been sold out. Do you understand? You have been sold out. Everybody is making money in the China bank. Everyone, the bank of the Chinese Communist Party. And all of these a-hole sellouts have taken the money to sell you out or to get some approval and a wink and a nod from woke identity people saying, well, you know, you can't ask any questions. It'd be anti-Asian bias. It's not anti-Asian anything. It's anti-communist. You don't think you've been sold out? I want you to listen to General Mark Milley. Remember Mark Milley?
Chinese thought wrongly that the United States is going to attack them. I am certain, guaranteed certain, that President Trump had no intent to attack. And it was my task to make sure I communicated that. And the purpose was to de-escalate, calm things down.
You shared all that earlier, I understand.
And as part of that...
Just say, did you or did you not tell him that if we were going to attack, you would let him know?
As part of that conversation, I said, General Lee, there's not going to be a war, there's not going to be an attack between great powers. And if there was, the tensions would build up. There'd be calls going back and forth from all kinds of senior officials. I said, hell, General Lee, I'll probably give you a call, but we're not going to attack you. Trust me, we're not going to attack you. These are two great powers, and I am doing my best to transmit the president's intent, President Trump's intent, to ensure that the American people are protected from an incident that could escalate.
I understand your intent, but I think you articulating that you would tell him, you would give him a call, I think is worthy of your resignation. I just think that's against our country, that you would give our number one adversary that information and tell him that.
I mean, a senior level military official for years, both in the Trump administration and now. A guy who it was reported in the Trump administration was so afraid not of China, but of Donald Trump, that he's alleged to have called China behind Trump's back, even though Donald Trump was a commander-in-chief, and tried to talk them off the ledge. Hey, don't worry, I got this. I'll give you a little warning. Oh, really? In defiance of your commander-in-chief? Here's Mark Milley. It's a couple years ago on China. You still think you haven't been sold out? Take a listen.
China's not an enemy. And I think that's important for people to clearly understand. China is a rising power. China has been a rising power since Deng Xiaoping in '79.
China's not our enemy? Really? China's not our enemy? A nuclear power, the bedrock, the ideological bedrock of their entire regime is communism, the very antithesis of everything we stand for. Capitalism and freedom here. And you don't think they're the enemy? You've been sold out, man. You've been sold out. Let me tell you something. This has been going on for years. None of this is new. This has been going on for decades. Chinese Communist Party infiltration in the United States, and this balloon story was a one final FU to everybody right before the meeting. This wasn't an accident. They own our businesses too. BlackRock, investment firms, your pension money, tech firms. They own everything. It's not a conspiracy theory. Listen to the people in charge. You've heard of Bill Gates, I'm sure. One of the largest holders of one of the biggest tech companies in the world. Listen to Bill Gates on China. He thinks this is just great, the rise of China at the expense of the United States. Check this out.
You have in the U.S. where you say, do you like your politicians? It's 7%. Well, we're a democracy. We picked those politicians. And, in China, you say, do you like your politicians? And 80% say yes. Well, they didn't pick those politicians, so it's not supposed to work that way.
So what's really crazy about all these classified documents, the most securely guarded document in the United States is the Jeffrey Epstein list. That's pretty crazy. So speaking of Epstein list, Bill Gates just over here tries to tell us that 80% of people in China voted in favor of their politicians. Do you know what happened to the other 20%? They haven't been seen since they voted. In the communist dictator where China's building quarantine camps. Wouldn't you really like to know exactly what Bill Gates was doing on Jeffrey Epstein's island? He had, what, 18 flights to Epstein's island? I don't think we should be taking any advice from anybody that traveled to Epstein's island. I don't know about you guys.
How bullish are you on China?
Well, China's gone from in 1980 being incredibly impoverished, poorer than India, I mean literally with starvation and malnutrition, to being the most wealthy middle-income country in the world. And that's, it's only 1.4 billion people. It's incredible, and it's great for the world. No, it's not a democracy, and as you get very large middle class who doesn't want arbitrary rule of law. But, I tend to see China's rise as a huge win for the world. I mean, that's 20% of humanity. They today match their portion of the global economy and their portion of the global population match exactly. Countries like Australia, US, we, have per capita GDPs 5 times what the Chinese have. So we have a disproportionate share of the world's economy. I do think the current mentality of the US to China, and which is reciprocated, is kind of a lose-lose mentality, that if you ask US politicians, hey, would you like the Chinese economy to shrink by 20% or grow by 20%? I'm afraid they would vote that, yeah, let's immiserate those people, not understanding that for the global economy, the invention of cancer drugs, the solution of climate change, we're all in this together.
Just look at that smile. What does that make you feel like doing? I don't want to say it on here because I don't want to get any strikes in the channel, but I can give you an idea of what I'm thinking. That smug little pompous, oh boy. No wonder Trump was trying to fight these people so hard. You guys realize that? What's crazy about this whole Bill Gates situation is these are the type of people that President Trump was trying to fight against. He was fighting for the American people. He was fighting for the middle class. Everybody is falling in love with Trump. Why? Because he opposed the globalists. He knows that in the United States or any country, when you empower the people that live in the country and you start removing regulations and you start taking back the red tape and you start getting rid of these unelected government bureaucrats. Do you guys remember when Trump got rid of all these regulations? Check this out. So how do you destroy the wealth of a nation? You put a bunch of unelected bureaucrats in charge and you regulate things to death. You regulate nuclear power. You regulate natural gas and oil production. You regulate coal. You regulate green new energy. And this is Trump right here today. All of these regulations that Trump was getting rid of. Trump got rid of more regulations in the United States than any government and than any administration, even 8-year administrations. Trump had removed more regulations and more red tape and more unelected government bureaucrat hacks. And that's what this swamp does. It's a bunch of unelected government bureaucrats, meaning people like Gary Gensler, right? He works at the SEC. Did you vote for him? No. He's appointed by the president. These people in power, they get to handpick their little administrations because that's how they get to infringe upon our rights as American citizens. They do so by lining their pocket. If you want to get something passed, well, guess what? Who's going to make some donations to so-and-so's campaign? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that?
Anything else? And what more evidence do you need? We got Joe Biden's kid and his family in shady operations and proposed operations with China. According to their own business partner, Tony Bobulinski was a partner to the deal. You got Tony Bobulinski saying that not only was Biden, Jim Biden, and Hunter Biden part of Biden Inc., but that Biden was the, quote, chairman, Joe Biden, of the operation, and that he was the big guy who was going to be cut in 10%. You got him in Swalwell's office. You got him in Feinstein's office. You got him in universities. You got him in businesses. You got Bill Gates talking about him like they're friendlies. You got BlackRock's Larry Fink. I didn't even include that. You know what? Can we throw that in post? We'll throw that in a post. You got BlackRock's Larry Fink. I'll play it for you right now. Talking about how China's like this great model. We should all replicate totalitarian regimes. Check this out.
Markets like actually totalitarian governments where you have a understanding of what's out there, and obviously the whole dimension is changing now with, as you said, a democratization of countries, and democracies are very messy, as we know in the United States. You have opinions changing back and forth.
We have a business in China. We are trying to build Chinese savings like we build savings in every other country. We work with them on retirement. We work with them on trying to build a better future for their citizens by building a retirement market. They own over $2.1 trillion of U.S. Securities, the Chinese does. I mean, this is a very interconnected relationship.
What don't they own? The balloon was one to all of us. One of my listeners, very astute listeners, sent me this News 18 story. Folks, can you imagine the moose nuts it must take on the Chinese Communist Party to set up de facto Chinese Communist Party police stations? Where, in China? No, in New York. No. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. News 18, January 27th. The FBI raids a Chinese police station in New York, aims to rein in China's Operation Fox Hunt? Chinese police stations in New York City. Wait till you see the screen capture of this piece. Even reported by the New York Times. They describe the police station outpost, which they operate, by the way, without diplomatic approval, and they harass Chinese dissidents in the United States. They own us, not you. Us, meaning our government, our businesses, everybody but you. Here's a little gem I found in this piece showing you how the Chinese Communist Party has bought off politicians. And I'm telling you, folks, this is not a partisan issue. I would not be surprised if some Republicans are uncovering this issue. Right now, it's a largely Democrat issue. But I don't want to get lost in the partisanship of this, because this is a national security crisis of the highest order, and it needs to be taken seriously by Democrats and Republicans, or we're going to find ourselves with a freaking EMP floating over the United States in one of these damn balloons that detonates atmospherically and wipes out our electrical grid while we're sitting here lost in this bickering right here about who the better party is in the uniparty swamp fiasco. Check this out. The Changal Association, which is associated with these Chinese police stations, well, they had a little revelation in this report, which will hurt the Democrats, they know. The Changal Association is a donor to New York City Mayor Eric Adams. You still having any doubts, by the way, that China absolutely owns us and flipped us the biggest middle finger you've ever seen with this balloon? It was not an accident. Well, if it was an accident, you'd think they'd be apologetic. Stay tuned until after the break. I'll show you the China response, just to show you how big the middle finger they're giving us right now really is. Folks, we're in a lot of danger.
The average wage of an American today is just under $52,000 per year. But for a member of Congress, it's much more, with the minimum salary set at $174,000 per year. But to most members of Congress, this salary is almost meaningless, as almost every person who holds this position is worth much, much more. According to current estimates, even the poorest members of Congress are all millionaires, and the 25 richest are worth a staggering amount. In 21st place is Dean Phillips, with a net worth of over $20 million. In the number 10 spot is Doris Matsui, who is worth an estimated $73 million. And right at the top is Republican Senator Rick Scott, who has an estimated net worth of $1/5 billion.
In case you think like, oh, this was just an accident and it was a weather balloon or it was a surveillance balloon over nuclear sites, but they didn't mean to be detected, and they didn't, a visible weather balloon, by the way, they didn't know anybody would see it, and they were surveilling us and they just got caught. They did this on purpose. Because why? Washington Times, you can read the story in the newsletter today. After they got busted, look at the date on the story, fellas. February 6th. China issues threat over balloon. This is after they shot it down. No apology. No, hey, fellas, really sorry about the confusion. This was a clear violation of your airspace and international geopolitical diplomatic relations. We're very sorry. They basically said, what, Joe?
No.
If you're reading my lips, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Now, this is the part that, I love Dan Bongino, but this is the part that I don't really understand. You see that video right there? The clip that he had, the news clip? What was the date on that? What does that date say right there? February 6th. The press conference from the Chinese congresswoman? What was the date was the 4th. So it's 2 days before this. China's been in communication with the United States the entire time. So I just can't wrap my head around, and maybe you guys can help me out with this. Is this something that the Republicans or Fox News is trying to do to what? Are they trying to force us into a war with China? Are they trying to force conflict so they could just keep the never-ending war, the neocons just keep this war going? Or does Dan not really understand the situation? I'm confused on this. Maybe this is just a way for them to try to get Biden out of office. And if it is, awesome. I'm all about it. But I think it's just a big distraction from the hearings that are taking place about the Hunter Biden laptop. It's just so strange that one of the biggest committee hearings, and they can tell by search engines how many people are searching for certain terms, like oversight committee. Let's take a look. I mean, like the indicators that these people have of when they need to react and when they need to take action. So, I mean, it's really simple. You can just come over here to Google Trends and take a look at main dates on here when search algorithms are super, super high. You just do House Oversight. House Oversight. Weird. Really weird. When was the Chinese spy balloon? Did it first enter the United States? Was it between January 30th and February 1st? Look at the trajectory for House Oversight right now. It's at an all-time high. In the last 30 days, House Oversight is trending at an all-time high. So let's see when Chinese spy balloon came into play. I bet you it's pretty close. When did I say? Did you guys see that? So the Chinese spy balloon exploded on February 2nd. So if I saw House Oversight trends taking off like this, you see this leverage that it's on, right? Did something else over here happen on the 18th of January that took this topic, this keyword, out from trending? Because look at over here on February 1st, this would have been trending on every social media platform, on every search algorithm. So what did they need to do? They needed a distraction to get the eyes off the FBI corruption and off the Joe Biden, Hunter Biden laptop story, period. And it didn't work. It's not enough. So now the real question you need to be asking yourself is, what are these criminals willing to do to take? I mean, they're running out of distractions. Their excuses, their fake wars, their sabotage, their psyops, they're running out of power, guys. They really are. So, but it's just scary to think about what they're willing to do, because when they don't have a crisis, they don't have control. Democrats are thriving on crisis. It's that bad. It's really, really scary. And just take a look at this too. Here's something else cool. Something to keep an eye on. So take a look at House Oversight. What states are the most interested and most concerned about what's going on? You see, like, Wisconsin doesn't have high search volumes. What is this? Is this Nevada, South Dakota, North Dakota? You can see the blue states where things are really, really, in Montana, huge. So Montana was really big on that, on House Oversight committees. It was trending the highest there in Montana. Really, search interest was peaking in Montana. Where did the spy balloon fly over? Just another coincidence, probably. I'm sure it's nothing.
Now, of course, the media, by the way, the reason I brought up, because you may fairly enough be saying right now, well, Dan, this is a partisan issue because a lot of these people who've been compromised by China, Feinstein, Swalwell, Biden, the Biden family, Biden Inc., and Eric Adams and others, are all Democrats. Fair enough. I'm not saying it's not a political issue. What I'm saying is the national security component has to be handled by both sides, because it is an existential, and I hate that word, threat, because it's overused, to the United States, folks. I have been terrified about an EMP attack on our soil for a long time. That's an atmospheric nuclear detonation that would wipe out our electrical grid. Whatever you have, your phones, your cars, your car batteries, your computers are dead. They're done. It would be a mass extinction event. To do that via a technology from the Neanderthal days, via a balloon, would be a catastrophe. So we have to handle it with both of these sides shutting the up and getting the job done with the Chinese Communist Party. Of course they can't. This weekend, what was the talking point from the left? Well, we saw a bunch of balloons in the Trump era too. Did we? I don't think so. The only reason I say I don't think so is because I trust John Ratcliffe. And Ratcliffe was on Maria Bartiromo's show this weekend and in no uncertain terms refuted the story that this had happened. Here, take a listen.
John, the Biden administration is trying to minimize this explosive situation in this past week. And the Department of Defense is claiming that there were 3 balloons, Chinese spy balloons, that entered the United States airspace during the Trump administration, and that they were not shot down and they were not disclosed. Can you please tell us the truth, and if that's true?
Well, it's not true. I can refute it. Former Secretary of Defense Mark Esper refuted it yesterday. Former Secretary of State and CIA Director Mike Pompeo has refuted it.
You see how they make it all about Donald Trump? Always to distract you from the fact that the Chinese Communist Party just flew a balloon as a middle finger over our territory that could potentially detonate a nuclear device that would wipe out our electrical grid. You see the, look, shiny red object, Trump. Why? Why Trump? Because, ladies and gentlemen, Trump was not a member of the Uniparty. He was one of the first legitimate outsiders in decades to get elected to an office with that much prominence, presidency of the United States, with really no prior attachments to the political machine and the China machine that paid off the political machine. Therefore, Trump was a threat to expose these people and the pay for influence schemes, not just with China, but Ukraine, that's been going on for years. You see how this all ties together? The balloon, the classified documents, Biden Inc., what they were hiding. They are hiding influence operations through NGOs, non-governmental organizations, Soros operations, the State Department, lobbyists being paid off. All of these people were being paid off, and Trump knew about it and was going to expose it. That's why he was public enemy number one. That's why the classified documents thing is such a scandal. That's why the indictment of the FBI guy is such a scandal. Our national security infrastructure, ladies and gentlemen, our military, not all of them, God forbid, not all of them. I don't even mean to remotely imply that. But significant numbers of people at the top of law enforcement, our FBI, it's not a small number in our military, have sold you out. Let's walk through it piece by piece.
Now, this part is going to get really good. Dan's actually going to break down all of the corruption within inside of our government. And these are just the ones that we know about. And next week, if you guys enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. The more likes, the more engagement, the more hard it's going to be for the algorithm just to basically slow down this stream. And I need all the help I can get because we're obviously getting a lot of hate from the algo because we're exposing the corruption. And I need your support to do that. So please help out, hit that like button. But I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow or the next day. I'm going to be going over all Trump's highlights. So if you guys actually want to learn what Trump did for this country, why he put America first, it didn't matter what race, gender, age, anything. Trump wanted us all to win together. And that's why the machine just did everything they can to destroy him. And I pray every day that I'm going to wake up and Trump's going to come in with the military and clean house and arrest all these criminals.
The American dream is dead.
Because every day it just gets worse and worse and their lies get more and more obvious. Everybody's waking up. We're organizing. We're coming together. I'm going to be at CPAC.
That we take our next steps into the world.
You must go forth into the world.
It is with passion, courage of conviction,
courage in your convictions,
and strong sense of self.
Be true to yourself.
We did it!
I did it.
And big shout out to LFA TV. That's Jeremy Harrell. If you guys see the logo up here, I'm going to be linking up with him at CPAC. We're going to be filming together. We're going to be shooting a bunch of stuff. If you guys aren't following him on Rumble, swing over here, follow him, show him some love. During the Trump era, Jeremy actually would have 40,000 people in a Facebook live stream when he was sitting on his back porch, just drinking a bourbon, just talking about the hypocrisy in our news. 40,000 people, wasn't even monetized. And they wiped him off YouTube. They wiped him off Facebook. They wiped him off Instagram. And now he's back on Rumble. Pretty awesome, right? Dude, one hell of a guy. You guys aren't following Jeremy over on Rumble, definitely check him out. He's an awesome guy.
Remember the impeachment probe? Donald Trump's on the phone with Ukrainian President Zelensky asking about this influence scheme, the Bidens being paid off by Ukraine. Everybody freaked out. Now, of course, the Bidens were going to freak out. Why would the Bidens freak out, guys? Because they didn't want to be exposed as being pay-for-play people. But what's really telling is who else freaked out. A lot of California congressmen like Swalwell and others really seem to lose their mind over this. And it's interesting how they immediately went right after the phone call he was impeached over with Zelensky, Trump that is, how they went over to the NSC and hired a bunch of intelligence people to work on the impeachment probe. Look at this AP headline. March 2019. Adam Schiff hires staff with intelligence ties for Trump probes. Oh, really? Maybe those intelligence ties were bought off themselves and knew they were going to be exposed by Trump. By the way, hat tip Walk of Fire on Twitter and Climate Audit. Got to give appropriate attribution. They've done tremendous work on this, Walk of Fire, especially with the 302s. Here's some of the interview work from the Mueller report. Notice who they're interviewing here. Oh, an FBI detailee to the White House National Security Council. On some of the conversations he had with the assistant to the president for Homeland Security. I find that really fascinating. Asking him about Trump's phone call with Lavrov.
I want to make sure that Bob Mueller has the advantage of the evidence that we've been able to gather, but equally important that Bob Mueller is in a position to determine whether people knowingly committed perjury before our committee.
So are you going to put out the transcripts of all your witnesses?
It's our intention to put all the transcripts out. Now, we may have to redact a few of them. The vast majority are completely unclassified.
But you admit it's all you have right now is a circumstantial case.
Actually, no, Chuck. I can tell you that the case is more than that, and I can't go into the particulars, but there is more than circumstantial evidence now. So Again, I think...
So you
Director
have seen
Clapper,
direct evidence of collusion?
I don't want to go into specifics, but I will say that there is evidence that is not circumstantial and is very much worthy of investigation. So
it wasn't all from Russia. So they weren't just concerned about Trump's phone call to Ukraine, but Trump's conversations with Russia, too. It's almost like they really thought they were the commanders-in-chief, the National Security Council. Maybe because they didn't want to be exposed? Here's another beauty. He helped impeach Trump. Now he's joining Biden's National Security Council. Mayor Bitter served as the general counsel for the House Intel Committee Democrats before coming on board the new administration. You see how the circular swamp works?
He's impeached forever, no matter what he says or whatever headlines he wants to carry around. You're impeached forever. You're never getting rid of that scar. And history will always record that you were impeached for undermining the security of our country, jeopardizing the integrity of our elections, and violating the Constitution of the United States.
Intel community, people in the Intel community working with Swalwell, Feinstein, and elsewhere. Some of those people on the Intel committee, Swalwell, being sold out to China, right?
I've seen plenty of evidence of collusion. We have very good circumstantial evidence that the Trump team, the family, the businesses were eager to work and were working with the Russians while the Russians were helping them. And I think in the court of law, that's enough.
Trump figures out there's these payola deals. They impeach Trump. They work on the impeachment. Then they go back to work again at the National Security Council. And nobody thinks that's odd at all. Nobody. Here's another gem. Schiff hired former colleague of alleged whistleblower Eric Ciamarella the day after Trump-Ukraine call by Kerry Pickett. Oh, he did? So the alleged whistleblower, Adam Schiff, hired a colleague the day after? That's kind of interesting. Oh, you know what's even more interesting? He just reminded me. He hired 2 people from the National Security Council who worked with the alleged whistleblower at the White House. You can see the headlines right here. Adam Schiff has 2 aides who worked with the whistleblower at the White House. Total coincidence, fellas. Ladies and gentlemen, Chinese Communist Party and foreign governments, they own this place. The upper levels of our FBI, intelligence community, people in our military, they own them. They own them. They all understand, our intelligence officials and these military people, that all they need to do is put in their 20 years, they can retire, then go work at a firm with significant business ties to China. The Chinese Communist Party will remember all their good work, if you know what I mean, and they'll all get paid handsomely later on for their connections and for going easy on China. Some of them taking payments, by the way, directly, i.e., what appears to be the Biden Inc. operation.
Oh, what do you guys think about the stream? Pretty wild, isn't it? You guys think we're getting played? Am I the only one who feels that way? How's everybody doing today? Corey, Monty, Donnie, what up? Good to see everybody. Ryan, Melon, what up? Try to give everybody shout outs. How you guys doing today? Thank you guys for hitting the like button, exit. It's easier if I put these, I can produce basically the videos. Like if I were to put that video out by itself and just upload it to my channel and not do it as a live stream, like nobody would see it and maybe get like 100 views. If I do them like this, there seem to be getting thousands of views. So thank you guys for showing up and hitting that like button. I'm trying to break down just the hypocrisy. It's almost like there's an unlimited amount of content to make now with all these lies. It's like every time our government comes out and tells us, what's up, Rick? Tells us a story, especially the balloon story. Like at first I was like, okay, like I felt like we should be scared, right? Like, wow, like are people going to wake up and realize the danger that we're in, that China's flying these balloons over? And then you start looking into the story and you're like, wait, okay. So up in the jet stream, up above 30,000 feet, in the jet stream, the wind gusts are up to 300 miles per hour. So that's 2 times stronger than a level 1 hurricane. So to think that you're going to control a balloon the size of 3 school buses is just insane. Like you would need the size of the motor. Like it'd be like holding up like a giant wind sail and be like, yeah, I'm going to control this thing in a level 10 hurricane. No, you're not. You have a hard time doing that with jet rockets on that thing. The Daily News is entertaining. It's like a comedy show. So we're going to jump over to Rumble right after this. I was trying to stream on Rumble at the same time, but I got a new program here. So when I tried to start it like ended all the stream. So right after this, we're going to switch over to Rumble and we're going to talk about what's going on in Ohio. Who was in here talking about the election integrity stuff? We're going to really go into that if you guys want to. If you guys want to see all the evidence about that'll blow your mind. It's pretty amazing that the proper investigations haven't been opened up yet. Jim bro, good to see you, man. D, what up? Only me in the house. Good to see everybody. No drip, Gabby. So let me try to start up this Rumble stream and let's see if it'll just start up. And if I can get it up, we'll go there right now. If not, I might need a couple minutes to get it going. If this stream ends, I apologize. Make sure I got everything set up here, right? I really want to talk about some stuff, but I feel like I don't want to risk the channel getting in trouble over here on YouTube. So we're just going to go over to Rumble. That way we don't have to hide what we want to talk about. I'm going to try to fire it up right now. If it doesn't work right this second, it'll only take me a minute to get it up and going. So. All right, I'm going to try to start the Rumble. Oh, yeah, here, let me share the link for you guys. That's probably a smart thing to do here. So here's the Rumble stream. I can't leave your stream. It's so good. Thank you. That just made my day. I'm trying to, like, if I were to try to put this together outside of, yeah, it is. Rumble is frustrating, Jim. So I spoke with Jeremy. Jeremy's actually basically connected to like the highest up people at Rumble. So like when Rumble's making changes or modifications to their streaming software and like the viewer experience, they're taking all that feedback from the streamers. So the streamers that are really big on Rumble are actually helping Rumble design and make their upgrades. I said the same thing. Like the main things I pointed out was the live chat, right? Like how YouTube's live chat reacts and how you guys can actually sit there and watch the video and the live chat's like right over the video. That was my biggest complaint, is they need to work on the live chat better. But in Rumble is all about engagement too, where YouTube, you can tag things and like certain like notifications. On Rumble, it's all about engagement. So if you guys switch over to my Rumble stream, could you please make sure that you guys hit the like button, drop some comments down below in the main comments, try to be active in the live chat, because that's what actually will continue to promote my videos and continue to push them out to the algorithm. So give me a few seconds. I'm going to try to fire up this Rumble stream and I'll see you guys over there in about 2 minutes. I appreciate everybody. Thank you so much. Let me pin that Rumble link up to the top. See if we can't figure out what's going on over in Ohio.